everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. It is the Uncensored Match Build Up show. I am so happy to be joined today by Chloe Bloxham, looking radiant as always, and Dan Clubb looking radiant as always over at the board. We are here for the big game in the Europa League round of 228, I think, at this point. There's a lot of teams left. Liverpool, Sparta Prague. Chloe, how are you feeling ahead of this one?
I'm feeling a little bit, I wouldn't say nervous, but obviously this for me isn't the biggest game of this week. I'm excited for it. I'm hoping that the Reds can get, just across the line in this game, even a 0-0, a 1-0, nick a goal here or there. But, depending on what the squad does look like, this team does look like, I will feel quite sick during the game, just in case anyone does get injured. That is my problem here. There
is a massive game at the weekend, obviously. Manchester City, Liverpool, it's the biggest game of the week. It might be the biggest game in world football this weekend. Season. It probably is. It's a huge game between two sides, but we can't take our eyes off the prize here, can we, Dan? No. Sparta Prague, this is one of the 4 trophies that we want to win this season. So do you think Jurgen's going to go strong, or do you think he's going to go weak?
I had it down as a bit of a combination of the two, because as big as that game of the weekend is, there's no two ways about it, us as a fan base and Jurgen Klopp perhaps a little bit as well, even potentially 1 or 2 of the players might just have one little, maybe a quarter of an eye on that game at Anfield, because it is an absolutely monumental clash and it does have so much riding on it, of course. And I don't know whether it does change the dynamic heading into this one, but for me it feels like he needs to be strong enough so we're not chasing the game in the second leg, because that is a nightmare scenario, because the dynamic of this is quite difficult. You are going to a team whereby they are used to winning week in, week out. You are playing in their home territory, of course, so you can't take them lightly. They're no mugs, Sparta Prague. They beat Galatasaray to get to this stage, so they aren't to be sort of messed with, they aren't to be underestimated. However, I think there will be an element of bit of rotation from Jurgen, much like we've seen throughout the Europa League. I don't think it'd be too much change. It'd be a bit of involvement from the youngsters, a little bit of experience blended into that, and we'll wait and see for the team in literally a couple of minutes' time, but it's going to be a fascinating one.
No, Dan, I think it is. I think you're absolutely spot on, aren't you? I mean, me and Chloe are very much scaredy cats when it comes to football matches, when there's big games in the week. I know what side you're going for. Is it fair to say it's slightly weak?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are some senior performances in there. I'd start McAllister, maybe take him off at 45. I'd hopefully give Salah, maybe 25, 30 minutes if he can do that, because looking ahead to the weekend, I want him to get as many minutes on the pitch as possible. You've obviously got the 2 centre halves, who I'd probably rotate 45 each. I'd lob Costas in there if I can. The right back situation's a little bit mad for me, because I'd start Gomez, but at the same time, actually on the weekend, if I'm wanting to be a bit safe, it's Gomez who I'd put on the left hand side. So yeah, my teams are fairly weak, but saying that, Bobby Clark, the youngsters who've came in, mentioning Harvey Elliott, who for me this weekend might edge out instead of Szoboszlai. These are still players who in the last 3 weeks have played really well for the Reds, so I'll back whoever's on the pitch.
What about you then, Dan? I'm obviously going to go weak. I think Jurgen will go strong though. What is it, the side that you'd like to see?
Yeah, Jurgen tends to pick stronger teams, doesn't he, than we ever really anticipate he will do. This would be the team I would have gone with, personally. This would have been my starting 11. Whether exactly he goes with that remains to be seen, of course, but it's going to be a really interesting one. There's no two ways about that. I think, like Bobby Clark, obviously we've seen a little bit of him in recent times as well. He could be in for another start. He made his first Premier League start at the weekend. Kostas Tsimikas felt like a bit of a no-brainer to me, but we'll have to wait and see. Virgil van Dijk will be very much a 45-45 split, but there is interest in this, because there are certain lads, I think Mustafa Endo falls into this category, whereby you do need to get minutes into some legs, and that also applies to a couple of lads on what is a particularly strong bench as well. But I think we have a team.
We do indeed, Dan. Would you like me to go through it with you? Liverpool have got the graphic up, and it's Caoimhin Kelleher in goal. Yeah. Looks like it's Joe Gomez at right back, partnered by Ibu Kanate and Jarell Kwanzaa. No Virgil van Dijk.
They need to bin off this numbers, by the way.
Yeah, we've got Robertson instead of Tsimikas by the looks of things. Okay. We've got an Endo at the base of the midfield. We've got a McAllister in there. Yeah. And we've got an Elliott in there.
Okay, so that swaps them too.
Yeah, and it looks like we've got a Diaz on the left, a Gakpo on the right, and a Nunes up top.
Gakpo on the right, so Simica. Okay, interesting. Right.
Subs, 2 goalkeepers, Adrian and Mruzek. Van Dijk and Szoboszlai. Yes. Salah, Tsimikas, Clark, Gordon, McConnell. Yes. Kumas, Bradley, and Muzilovski.
Oh, that is the first inclusion in the first team squad for that lad, I think. Well done. Polish Messi, by the way.
Yes, that's what they called him.
Did anyone mention Salah as my head fell off?
Nobody's...
Thank God.
Yeah, he's on the bench.
I didn't hear Salah for some reason in my head.
Dan, talk me through the team in full, mate.
Yeah, okay, interesting. A couple of surprise inclusions there for me, I think it's fair to say. Keith Keller in goal, Joe Gomez at right back, one of his numerous positions these days, of course. Joel Quansah and Ibu Konate, which I imagine will be that way round. Ibu 10, no, I'm going to swap that actually now. Sorry, I'm swapping that.
Agreed.
Mid-conversation, it'll be that. Andy Robertson, which is definitely one of the surprise inclusions. I'm amazed he's starting this one. It very much felt like a Kostas-Tsimikas game. However, Wataru Endo at the base of midfield, as you mentioned, Harvey Elliott, Alexis McAllister in the 2-8s in there. Darwin Núñez leading the line with Cody Gakpo on the right. We'll talk about that in a minute. And Luis Diaz over on the left wing, which leaves us a bench of Adrian Moser, Kostas Tsimikas, Kay Gordon, Mo Salah, Bobby Clark, Virgil van Dijk, Dom Szoboszlai, James McConnell, Conor Bradley, Matthias Musolowski and Lewis Kumas. Interesting.
Dan, thank you so much, mate. James Roll is saying here, Gakpo and Diaz will be the other way round. Chloe, which way round do you think it'll be?
Look, when Diaz did play on that right-hand side, the Arsenal game, in which we obviously win and get through to the next round of the FA Cup, comes in mind, and I thought he was really good in that game. There was a couple of chances where he should have hit the target across goal. He didn't want to do that. He wants to cut inside, but his goal, his finish, actually surprises all the defenders because he doesn't have to cut inside and use his right foot. It's very much straight away, top bins, it's cutting across the ball. I think it will be Cody Gakpo on the right, mainly for the reason of Luis Diaz is my left winger, and if I had Diogo Jota on the bench or Diogo Jota somewhere in the game, then yeah, sure, I'd potentially put Luis Diaz back out on the right-hand side. But for me right now, I just would keep the familiarity of it, and also Cody Gakpo's struggled a little bit in the last couple of weeks. Give him that right wing and tell him to go and earn his place, because who knows how Mo Salah will be for the weekend. You know, he might only come off the bench, so you're really giving Gakpo the chance to shine.
I think you're right there, Chloe, to be honest with you. I mean, the other way of looking at this, Dan, as well, is let's not forget Gakpo's played the 8 for us. Yeah. We've got Harvey Elliott in the side there, who's sat in the 8 at the moment. Could Gakpo play in the midfield? Yes. Will he? Probably not, but Dan, it's a possibility.
Yeah, it certainly is. Actually, I think that might be more suited to Cody Gakpo than playing on the right wing, if truth be told. Chloe touched on it there. Like, he is a player that feels like he's a little bit low in confidence at the moment. He's not quite performing at his best, and when there was a period of time whereby you probably needed to see the best of Cody Gakpo, you needed him to step up in the absence of Mo Salah, Dom Szoboszlai, Darwin Núñez, etc. I don't think he's really been able to do that. He's chipped in with some goals on the way, but performance-wise, he's never really grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and made it his. I think Luis Diaz has done that on this side, which would be why I'd be tempted to keep him over there pretty much whichever way I could. Therefore, I'd be tempted to do something more like that, to be honest with you. I think we've seen more of Cody Gakpo in that right side today than we have as a right winger to potentially. I think he finished the game at the right wing a little bit against Nottingham Forest at the weekend, but it's not what I love with Cody Gakpo. And how often do we speak about Cody Gakpo being a victim of his own versatility? And we're really only talking about left wing, that position there, and as a striker. If you then add in the fact he can also do a little bit as a right winger, I don't think we're doing him any favours, let's put it that way. We're doing him more harm than good by constantly sort of moving him across the pitch, and he's never really getting a settled place, and therefore he's never really been able to sort of build on any good performances he's made.
Absolutely, mate. One question for you, Chloe. Andy Robertson captain or Joe Gomez?
Andy Robertson. He's part of the, obviously, senior crew. He is part of the captain's club. So, I mean, Joe Gomez has been unbelievable, and he's stepped up like a captain when we've needed him the entire season, really. He's been dotted about all over this back four and even in the number 6 position. But yeah, it's got to be Andy Robbo, and what a moment for him as well. You know, we spoke about, there was a lot of talk at the start of the season where Virgil took over being captain, and loads of people were like, is he the type of captain we really need? Well, Andy Robbo is very much a yapper. He talks at people. He makes sure everyone's keeping the standards there, and his intensity really sets the tempo. So yeah, it's Andy Robbo for me.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen though, Dan, over the years that, you know, Jürgen not really give a shit about it. I remember when Coutinho was basically leaving, and as one of the longest serving players on the pitch, he got given the captain's armband, and we were all a bit like, what? And then we've seen that over the time. Sometimes it is just the longest serving player, and it could be Joe Gomez. I'm like you, I'd go for Andy Robertson, Chloe, I really would, because of who he is, and what he's been able to do for this side. But Joe Gomez is definitely in with a shout.
100% he is, yeah. It's almost a 50-50 split for me, and that's because I've got that longest serving player thing in the back of my mind, because you're right, Klopp has tended to use that as the reason or the rationale as to why he has picked his captain. So if it is Joe Gomez, it wouldn't shock me in any way, shape or form, but likewise, all the points Chloe made there are absolutely spot on. Andy Robertson feels very much like the captain of this side, very much like the obvious choice in and amongst this 11, certainly when you factor in the fact he's been here for years anyway. Not quite as long as Gomez, of course, but he's also the Scotland captain and stuff like that. He does feel very much like one of the leaders. But as you mentioned there, I don't know whether it'll matter all that much, if truth be told, because you're going to lead leaders all the way across this pitch regardless. I think Andy Robertson will be a captain in spirit, even if he doesn't have the armband, whilst I do kind of expect him to.
Okay, Chloe. Dan's put his 2 cents worth in terms of the midfielders and stuff, but this side has thrown up a lot of question marks for me. Who is your midfield 3?
I mean, once again, I look at the starting 11 and it's much stronger than what I would have gone with. And look, I like that because clearly Jürgen means business, but it also petrifies me. I'm already looking at our 5 subs instantly. I'm already thinking, who's the 5 players we take off there? And to be perfectly honest, both Elliott and Cody Gakpo are getting 90 minutes for me tonight. I like Cody Gakpo in the 8 and Harvey Elliott on the wing a little bit more, just because I just feel like Cody Gakpo's in a bit of a moment where he's not in the most confident, and actually him on the half turn in that number 8 position with his intensity and with his pressing is really, really good. He sets that off in the midfield. And Harvey Elliott has shown on the right wing that he's got the quality to whip balls in to the likes of Nunes and hopefully Diaz at the back post. It could go either way. I see it being... it's a 50-50, isn't it? I genuinely can't pick. I have just said Cody Gakpo in the 8, but actually I think I'd rather Harvey Elliott in the midfield now I've said it. I'll go with... No, it's too hard. It's 2 players. I just wouldn't put either there, but I'll go with Harvey Elliott in the mid then. I'll just contradict everything I said because I actually like Harvey Elliott as an 8 more than I do a right winger.
I must admit, I think it's probably likely to be Harvey Elliott, and one of the reasons that I think it's likely to be Harvey is it's an away game in a European tie, and I think you might want to just go a little bit more solid in this one. Obviously, we know Jürgen's gone with a strong side. He wants to give the lads some confidence, hopefully ahead of the game against Manchester City, but also make the next leg a little bit easier for us as well. We don't want to have to rely on Anfield and putting another strong side out there if we can possibly help it. So I think Elliott maybe plays into that a bit more European, bit harder to break down in terms of Cody Gakpo or him in there. And then the front 3 for me, I mean, you could go Nunes left, Diaz right, Gakpo central, and keep Gakpo in a little bit of a rhythm, playing in the same position over and over. But when you've got Darwin Nunes in such a rich vein of form at the moment, like he's in, Dan, surely Nunes is going to be playing central.
I would imagine so. Yeah, you got to strike while the iron's hot a little bit with players like Darwin Nunes, it feels like to me. And I think Chloe mentioned a moment ago about sort of the pre-planned substitutes. I think he would definitely fall into that category. I'd be amazed if he got 90 here. So while he's on the pitch, get him central, get him in front of the goalposts and get him leading that line, because he's been absolutely outstanding in recent weeks. Whilst he's been available, he's just been absolutely on the top of his game. So I'd be getting him up front. I think what I do like about a lot of this, you could even introduce Alexis McAllister into this conversation as well, is just how fluid that front 5 really is, because we've all there given our 2 pence worth as to where they could be playing, and it kind of sort of amalgamate into one. And at certain times of the game, I imagine Diaz will pop up on the right and Gakpo could hover over to the left, and likewise they could interchange as well. Darwin Nunes, as we mentioned there, is more than comfortable playing pretty much across the front 3. So I think there'll be different problems for the Sparta Prague defenders, which would be absolutely really nice to see. There will be some sports science subs, as I mentioned earlier. Whether that influences what we do from the start will be interesting. I think it'll be a very businessman-like performance from Liverpool. I don't expect it'll be sort of swashbuckling and free-flowing, because there are some new faces, there's some new partnerships going on here. But in terms of how it looks, it's so difficult to sort of nail down what you think this is going to be. I think Klopp might go with that and that sort of line up to it. I think keeping Diaz over there is really, really important. As much as I didn't mind him on the right wing, I think he's enjoying the moment right now where you just need to keep him going, not move his position. So that would be my preference, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with that one, to be honest with you. My point, I suppose, when it comes to those forward 3 players, it was something you were sort of saying a little bit earlier, is you want as many people in their A1 positions as possible. Diaz in his A1 position on the left, Nunes in his A1 position in the middle, you could argue that Gakpo's is on the left as well, but Diaz is ahead of Gakpo in the pecking order, isn't he, on that left-hand side? So, you know, moving Gakpo to that right-hand side probably makes a little bit more sense to me. It is going to be an interesting one. You mentioned the subs as well earlier. Dan's mentioned the sports science subs as well. Chloe, you know, are we going to see a 45 from Canate and a 45 from Virgil van Dijk in this one, do you think? And who are the other subs that you think will be the pre-programmed substitutions heading into this one?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think Robertson, if he's starting at the weekend, he has to come off. McAllister's another one who you just can't possibly give 92. Nunes and Diaz would be the other two, that makes 4, and then it would be Canate and Verge probably rotating there to make it the 5 subs. You're going to have to tell Joe Gomez to go to the well once again. You're going to have to tell Endo to go to the well once again, but hopefully with that little week off where he was recovering, hopefully that's, you know, made sure that he can do 2 90s back to back. And Elliott and Gakpo, this is the time where they get the most chances, because if Salah is fit enough and gets some minutes in the side, where I'm not too sure, everyone's going to be shuffling about with the fact that I just didn't take a right winger off then. People are going to be moving to the left, probably Cody Gakpo in this instance. If Salah can start on the weekend, then Cody Gakpo isn't playing. If there's any thought of that happening, he's not starting the game. So yeah, they'd be my 5 subs, and I'd take them off as early as possible.
Well, it's mad, isn't it? Obviously, Calgon there, we've just answered your question. Thank you so much for the super chat. And of course, I remember the Cardiff football manager days, Chris. Very much a thing of COVID was my footy manager saves online. But yeah, thank you very much for remembering that one as well. Dan, he's starting to get the plaudits, the man in the middle, the World Cup winner, Alexi McAllister. Is this time when he sort of puts the team on his back now, the next couple of games, and we really start to see the benefits of the signing?
I think we've started to in recent weeks, haven't we? To be honest with you, we've seen sort of glimpses of it earlier on his Liverpool career, but I think in 2024, in many ways, certainly in recent weeks, when I mentioned earlier how when you've got so many absentees, and we've all known how high and how lengthy this injury list has been, that's when you need your key players to step up and really take the games by the scruff of the neck and be the man that gets you over the line. And obviously Virgil van Dijk was doing that in terms of his goal scoring prowess, but in terms of everything else about Liverpool's performances, it's been very much hinging on Alexis McAllister. I think he's been absolutely outstanding in recent weeks. And what's so interesting about tonight as well is, obviously, as I mentioned earlier on, it's a little bit of a more rotated side once again, so there might be a little bit of a partnership breakdown every now and then, but Alexis McAllister will be the man who's tasked with bringing it all together and knitting this entire team together, and he's done it absolutely wonderfully, as I mentioned. But also tonight, it looks like we've just spent 5, 10, 15 minutes talking about how many different positions all these lads can play, and McAllister falls into that category as well. We've been able to play there and there, of course, but it feels tonight like he might be in what we all anticipated would be his A1 position when we signed him. I think we all thought he played a left-sided 8. We've barely seen him in that role because he's been used as a utility 6. In more recent weeks, with the absence of Szoboszlai, he's been used there. So we could see potentially the best version of Alexis McAllister tonight, which, as I mentioned, has been absolutely very much top draw in recent weeks. He's got the defensive side of it, he's got the quality when he gets in possession, he's got the vision to produce assists like he did the weekend, he's got absolutely everything, and he's been a joy to watch. So it feels like we're just starting to see the very, very, very best of Alexis McAllister, and that very best is absolutely world class as well.
Absolutely. For everybody who was at the start of the stream as well, asking whether Paul Main, if you were following him on Twitter last night, he had one hell of a journey by all accounts. I know his flight was originally supposed to go from Manchester. I know he at some point ended up in Heathrow, and I know that he left from Leeds. I spoke to him this morning just via the medium of WhatsApp. Other messaging services are available, of course, but no one uses them unless you're on an iPhone and your friends are on iPhones, in which case you might use iMessage, but that's crap because then you can't speak to your Android buddies, and there are many others as well. Thank you very much. Anyway, I was chatting to Paul over on WhatsApp, Chloe, before everyone fell asleep. He made it okay. Wonderful. The vlog's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
In his own words, it's going to be 35 minutes of him trying to get to Prague and 3 minutes of him falling asleep at the match because he didn't have a lot of sleep last night. But he is over there. He will be covering the game for us, of course. We're all excited to see his vlog, I'm sure. Chloe, there is another game this weekend. It is... I don't know if it's more important. This feels important. If we want the quad, this is important. Yeah. But I mean, surely it's just get them back to our place. Draw would be okay, win would be ideal, no injuries is perfect.
Yeah, no injuries for sure, please, that'd be my first number one. But that team is unbelievable. That's a boss team there. And look, Sparta Prague, they've got where they are for a reason. They're first in their league. They're a tough side. But this Liverpool side has got a lot of quality. You've got Nunes, who's just coming off a 99th minute winner. You know, you've got Endo and McAllister, who were big parts of that. There is so many good players on this football pitch for Liverpool that Liverpool can, if they want to go up a gear, they can go up a gear and they can get a couple of goals here. If you can bring a 1-0 advantage back to Anfield, brilliant, but just make sure you're in the game no matter what when you come back to Anfield, and then hopefully Anfield can do what it does best and get us over the line. But this is a strong side, and I'm not taking, you know, Prague as a light opponent, but what I will say is there's enough quality on this pitch for me to enjoy the football tonight.
Yeah, and we should do as well. We shouldn't forget that we all want a quad. This needs to be won this tie. So score predictions, Dan Club, before we round off.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be easy by any stretch of imagination. I think we might have to ride a little bit of a storm early doors. I think the atmosphere is going to be hostile. I think the players are going to be banged up for it. It's the night of a lot of these Sparta Prague players' lives, and it'll be followed up by the second night of their lives when they come to Anfield next week. So I do think it'll be tricky. However, Jurgen clearly wants to win the lot. That's absolutely evident by the team he's named. Therefore, I think we get the job done. I'm going to say 2-0 tonight and make life much easier next week.
Dan, just before you go, mate, can we have a little look at the back of your t-shirt again? Because my mate Simon runs threads for Reds.com. Look at that beauty. There's a whole new range of stuff. I've been wearing one of those jumpers earlier on today as well. Very similar design to that one. They are brilliant. Threadsforreds.com. Go and give them a check their stuff out. It's absolutely superb. Chloe, your score prediction, please.
I was going to say 2-0, but Dan's already took that, so I'll go 3-1.
Okay, which is the score of the season so far. I was going to say 2-0. Dan's already took that.
A hat-trick, yeah.
3-1 would be my next score. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Liverpool Football Club. Join us for the live watch-along in around about 55 minutes' time. Yes, it promises to be a big one, and we'll be with you the entire way. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for subscribing, and we'll see you soon. Ta-ra.
Thank you so very, very much for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like. The season is now well underway. If you need extra Redmen content, be it podcast, videos, documentaries, interviews, and general shows, fill your boots on redmenplus.com today.